Yo, it's your girl Life, and welcome back to another Silence the Shame podcast. We're super excited to have you because you know I love you, you love me, and we're here together. But we're here to talk about generational gaps. Like, how is it between each generation and dealing with mental health and accessing mental health services and talking about mental health with each other? And we have a wonderful guest in today. But first, I want to pay homage to our original podcast host, Shanti Das, who is the founder and CEO of Silence the Shame, and my homie Free. Without them, there would be no life. So I want to say thank you to them for even providing this platform for us to have this conversation around normalizing the conversation around mental health. And so with that being said, I would like to invite you to my guest, Miss Tondra. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Life. How are you?
I am amazing. So tell us a little bit about yourself outside of your career world. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a mother of two.
Awesome.
I'm married.
Okay.
I have two daughters. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Bless your love.
Yes. Went to Xavier University.
Okay.
Yes, have a master's degree from Clemson University.
Awesome.
I've worked in the professional corporate world.
Okay.
Most of my career in
Okay.
various disciplines.
Cool. So we have a little bit in common. I'm from Mississippi, and
Okay.
Louisiana is like my cousins, right?
So you're a Saints fan.
I am a Saints
Yeah,
fan. Yeah, we're not going to tell these people. We know where we are, but who that for life, right? And so you have a lot of culture, and you coming from New Orleans. And so how long have you been here in Georgia?
So I'm doing my second tour in Georgia.
Second tour. Y'all
Yes.
heard that.
So I've been back from 2010 to 2014. So
Okay.
2024, 14 years.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was in Alabama for 4 years, and prior to that, I was actually in Atlanta for 7 years.
Was that due to Katrina?
No, it wasn't due to Katrina. It
Really?
was just job transferring with
Oh,
my
cool.
husband.
Okay. So you're in the corporate world and you have two children. Now we're parents. So we went from, running the corporate business to running your home business,
Exactly.
which is your home. Like everybody doesn't realize running a home is a business.
It is.
And for the mother, it's a larger business. Like the father is there and helps, but the mother knows everything that goes on and in and around and about our home.
Absolutely.
And so you have two girls.
I have two girls.
Bless you. I have a boy and a girl, but the girl is times 10. So how old are your girls?
They are 18 and 20. So
Okay.
I am recently an empty nester.
Oh, exciting.
Yes, very exciting.
And so we're calling that something different now.
What are we calling it?
Free bird.
Free bird?
Yes.
So I'm a free bird.
You're a free bird.
Okay.
Flying. Okay, so 19 and
18 and 20.
18 and 20.
Yes.
And so we are here talking about navigating the mental health of young people. And we know with girls there comes lots of changes, lots of puberty, lots of youth development, and lots of things, just being a young lady in this world, right? A young Black lady in this world. And so with that, tell me how it has been in the journey with raising your children and how that has gone along the way and how you have helped to support their mental health, or how has that journey with them and their mental health been for you?
It's been pretty challenging,
Okay.
to say the least. I don't know that I thought about mental health or mental health challenges when I had children.
Right.
Although I think I have suffered from mild mental health issues, I guess, growing up. However, when you have children, it's not something that you really think about.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, I think it's more common or more prevalent today
Right.
than it was years ago.
Correct.
So I'm having two daughters. They're different individuals. I think they both have had some of their own personal mental health concerns. So it's been a challenge just trying to navigate the differences between the two.
Yeah.
And just being a parent and being older. I'm Generation X.
Okay.
My children are actually, I guess, Generation Z. So
We're trying to figure out the letters.
So I had children probably about 10 years later than average.
Okay.
So there's a big difference between what they're used to in their generation and my generation and how I was raised and how I communicate. So if you take that basic difference, then you add in the issues and concerns of mental health, it can become a pretty big challenge.
It's layering.
Yes, it is.
And so let's stay right there for that moment. The gap between you and your children and when you had children, you come from a different generation of how we raised or how children were raised.
Exactly.
Right? We were to be seen, not heard.
Yep.
If you were in the room, you did not have a voice.
Do what I say, not what I do.
And so you went into parenting with that foundation, with that mental model,
Pretty
right?
much, yes.
And so having your first child, that made you want to have a second because it was nice and fluffy and fun,
Yes,
right?
and I'm an only child. And so I didn't
so
want
you didn't
just
want-
one child.
I got
exactly.
it.
So, yeah.
So you were trying to break that generational,
Yes.
not curse, but gap.
Yeah.
And you didn't want your daughter to come up like you did and be lonely in the household, so you had another child. And so now that they are older and you've done sort of the foundation, you've got out of sort of toddler life and into preteen teen world. And you say you started to notice some things in your children that needed some more care. Tell us a little bit about that.
Just being in school. I mean, bullying is a big deal in school right now. My kids were very active and very involved.
Okay.
So I was very involved and very in tune to them,
Gotcha.
their personalities, how they feel.
Yeah.
I think I noticed once my oldest started middle school, when she got until about the 7th grade, I just noticed a change in her behavior and a change in her personality. So I started paying more attention to it. So it was a young lady that went from being kind of bubbly and happy all the time to not so much so.
Right.
So just kind of talking to her about that and trying to better understand what was going on with her. So that was the first introduction to me just saying, hey, what's happening? What's going on? And I think she was suffering maybe from a little depression.
But did you know that at that time? Or did you think it was just puberty and she's going, this is middle school and this is what middle school
Yeah, honestly,
sort of goes on?
I think I suffered from depression. So I don't know that I thought it was puberty. She was my first child.
Got you.
I mean, obviously, I think maybe it's like this. I always heard that middle school was the challenging time for kids. And I had heard that before I had children.
Right.
So I thought some of it was just the normal middle school stuff. But at the same time, I suffered from depression.
So you knew some of the other, it wasn't the normal.
It wasn't the norm.
You saw some abnormal behaviors that sparked something different than this is just puberty and youth development.
Exactly.
And so what happened then? Did you get help? Did you start talking to her about these things? What was sort of the process?
So I started talking to her more, trying to figure out what's going on.
Because you're very in tune with your child.
Trying to understand what's happening. And it did lead to therapy.
Okay.
It did lead to therapy. And she seemed to be doing okay for the most part. She was doing okay.
What does that look like? What does doing okay look
Just
like?
happy. You get up, you go to school, you want to go to school, you're doing your homework, you're making decent grades, things of that nature. You're wanting to spend time with your friends.
Gotcha.
You're wanting to hang out with your friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at some point did that shift?
In middle school, I started she seemed a little bit more sad. She just wasn't as bubbly. So yeah. So you mean shift? Yes. Once I noticed it,
Yes.
once I started addressing it, yes, it did shift.
Okay.
And for her, changing schools helped a little bit as well.
Got you. Environment.
Yeah. So from middle school, she went to a different high school that was not the zoned high school. Because the zoned high school, she would
knew everybody.
Exactly. So I actually made a conscious decision to put her into a different high school.
Okay.
So, and that helped.
Good.
That did help. And keeping her active. Like we just kind of stayed active in a lot of different sports and activities.
So now you have two children. So
I
are
have
you
two
paying
children.
attention to both children at the
Yes.
same, like you're giving both of them the same?
I am, and they are very different.
Oh, don't we understand that
yes.
along the journey?
And that caused me to make a lot of mistakes and a lot of mishaps, just assuming that
They
you
would
can
be the
treat
same.
the second child like you treat the first child. And that was not the case.
Yeah.
Because with my second child, she never really looked sad. She's a pretty happy, pretty bubbly child.
Yeah.
She's a talkative. So it didn't look like that for
She
her.
suppressed it.
I think she suppressed it. Yeah. And then she was just a little bit more maybe ADHD, mood swings. Yeah, kind of. So it was a little bit more severe.
Okay.
When she had to go to, when I decided to put her in therapy, she started with therapy, but then she ended up having to go to a psychiatrist.
Okay.
Because she needed some mild medication.
How important was that for you in that moment in parenting? And knowing that you, even though you knew some things about depression because you've gone through that, it's a difference when you're trying to navigate that with your child and as a parent who knows nothing about this system. So how important was that to have that medical expertise sort of in your back pocket to be able to tap into?
It was very important because although I can sit here and say that I went to therapy, and I did when I was younger, you still don't really know what to do. Every person is an individual.
Right.
And every person is different. And every solution isn't the same. So, yeah, it was very important to have her around to know that there were some different options. I know that I felt like my mother suffered from depression. So for me, she didn't address it, right?
Yeah,
so
this
I
is
know
what
I
happened.
didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like
You
I
knew what
knew
happens
that,
if you didn't
exactly.
address it.
And I knew what that looked like.
Yeah.
Because I have my mother and I see her and I see some of her challenges. So for me, I mean, I exist as a parent to make things better for my children,
That's
right?
right.
So I don't want to repeat the cycle. You always want to break the cycle. So I kind of felt like it was just my duty to make sure that I did something different for them so that they can live a better life in the future
Kudos
and
to
be
you.
better, more functioning adults. So
Because we're not cookie cutters.
we're not cookie cutters.
We are not. You cannot take a round cookie and a square cookie and put us on the same pan and expect us to look alike,
Not at all.
act alike, have to be dealt with alike.
Yes.
These are your children. And so we are mama bears and we want to protect them. We want to do so many things so that they don't bump their heads. Did it ever come a time where you had to pull back some and you had to allow her to navigate that journey so that she can recognize her signs and recognize her triggers? Even at this young of a tender age, has there been a time where you stepped back and said, you've got to put some ownership in this and we've got to work on this together? Or are you still...
Yeah. I don't know if I ever said that.
Well, not necessarily said it, recognized.
Yeah. What I think I did have to do is I had to become an active listener.
There it is.
I had to, you have to be able to agree to disagree. And I had to understand that they aren't like me. They don't think like me.
That's it.
And earlier we mentioned that whole generational gap.
That's what I was giving back. Yeah.
I was parented differently. I probably assumed that I could parent somewhat the way my mother did.
Right.
Not completely, because I did recognize that it wasn't the best.
But she
way to
raised a
parent.
great woman.
Yeah.
So you thought we can do some of the,
To
we can
some
take
extent.
bits and pieces.
Yeah,
of
but
it.
I was still a little too stern, still a little out of line. And with my second child, that just did not work. I was not very good.
She went to bat with you.
Yeah, and I wasn't very good at setting boundaries.
I got you.
Me as a parent, I don't think I set enough boundaries between myself and my children. I mean, as a result, I didn't respect their boundaries
That's
if they
it.
had any, right?
That's it.
And no, they never said they did. My younger child did. She's like, Mom, you're crossing a boundary.
Yeah, I'm not.
Like, I'm not like you. This is how I feel about this. You may feel differently, but
How hard was that? And you said I did not set boundaries for myself as an individual adult in this parenting situation. What boundaries do you wish you would have set? Sort of, just a few, just one or two boundaries that you can speak of to help other parents know that as a parent, you're still an individual and still need that space. So what was one of the boundaries that you wish you would have set between you and your girls early on?
What can I think of? I can't think of anything specifically right now.
I'm going to give you one.
What?
Just communication. How you communicate.
Yes, I get, yes.
And how you want them to communicate with you. Like, you're going to talk to me and you're going to answer me at this moment. It's how we, you know what I mean? Like, so what are those, like, did you gave them space to be able to voice their opinions. And so how did that shift for you? Because that wasn't normal parenting.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, my mother, I was afraid of my mother growing up.
Most of us still are.
When my mother said do something, I did it. It didn't matter if I understood.
And you didn't have an opinion.
Yeah, I didn't have an opinion. So, I mean, my children have an opinion. And there's two sides to that coin, right? Like, we're active listeners. I listen to them. I allow them to speak their mind, which I think is great. And it does allow you to solve problems and get a lot of things done. The flip side is they think that they can debate everything.
Oh.
And they can't just debate everything.
So
sometimes I have to put my foot down and say, well, really, it's because I said so. And I know that doesn't make sense to you. But right now, in this moment, for this particular issue, it's because I said so.
Yeah.
So really, it was just giving them a voice.
That's it.
And listening to them and not just putting my foot down saying, well, because I said so all the time.
They're human beings, and we're raising them to be individuals who will be in this society independently and being great women and producing great children themselves. And so at this phase, like I tell people all the time, you're going to change your parenting. You're going to have to change your parenting at some point in your child's life. They're no longer that little kid that you can tell, go pick up your stuff. They're going to ask you. My child told me, can I let you know when I'm going to clean up?
No.
It's not going to work like that in here. Like, we both have to have an understanding here. I'm
Yes.
still the mother here. I'm going to give you a platform to have a voice. But like you said, at some point, it's not what we're doing here. But we have to give them that grace and space. And so in that same mindset with your children, and now that you are on the other side and now know how to navigate or still navigating their journey on their mental health, how do you give them space? How do you give them grace? And what does that look like for y'all?
Well, today they're away. They're both in college.
Okay.
So they're not home.
Okay.
They're living on campus. I try not to call all through the day.
So we just text?
Yeah, I try to allow them to call me when they feel like calling me.
Yeah.
And we just have a really open
That's good.
communication. They can pretty much talk to me about anything. I mean, even if it's something that, may not be the best conversation a parent would want to have with their child, but I just make it clear to them that it doesn't matter. I mean, even if you think you're in trouble, still
Let's
let
have a
them know.
conversation.
So we have open communication, and I listen. I mean, I actually listen to them.
Not to respond.
Mm-hmm.
You don't listen to respond.
No, exactly.
Right.
I actively listen, and I hear their side of the story.
That's good.
I could have been a parent just because of how my mother raised me, where I don't really care what you feel or what you have to say. But I don't do that because I recognize that that doesn't create good, healthy, mentally healthy adults or adult children. So it just doesn't work.
It doesn't. And I want to go back to a point you made about generational gaps and some genetics that's going on in the family. And so your children are now in therapy, you're in therapy.
Yes.
What has that done for your family dynamic, even outside of your nucleus, like your aunts and your uncles? Do you have that conversation with your family members? Have you taken it outside of your home and say, hey,
they're not as open and they're not as progressive, I think, as my husband and I are.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, we still have some family members that still don't think mental health is real.
That's right.
They think it's fake. They think you could just pray about it,
and
put it at the altar, and it'll be okay. So we still have family members like that. I talked about my mother and me feeling like she suffered from depression, and I think she can kind of acknowledge that to some extent, but she's not actively trying to do something about it. Exactly.
It's the difference. It's a difference, and like you said, we were raised different. We are different people than our children. Our children are in this whole different generation that we have, that we are still learning about every day. And so what do you do to enhance your skills or to inform and educate yourself about the new generation? Is there something that you can tell parents about being able to step outside the box and look from the outside the house and looking in? Is there any tips that you would like to give parents?
Well, I do think being active with organizations that support mental health, like Silence the Shame. I know NAMI.
Yeah.
So in some of the organizations that I've been in, they've exposed me to those different organizations.
Good.
And there's always things that you can do to support and volunteer within those organizations. And that does broaden your horizons and gives you more information about mental health and mental health awareness.
Good. So tell us where the girls are now in their mental health journey.
Okay. So my older daughter goes to UGA, and she is regularly in therapy.
Good.
They all have their own therapist, and they schedule their own therapy sessions.
That's good.
Yeah.
Did they go through a couple of therapists?
Yes, they have. They've gone through a couple therapists.
By choice or?
Kind of by choice.
Okay.
I mean, some guidance from me. Yeah, but by choice.
Okay.
I think more so by choice.
Good.
And so that's my oldest. And my youngest is actually, she does the same. And she's very active with Silence the Shame.
Yes, she is. And so excited. And so how has being a part of those organizations, or your daughters now being like, this is their passion now, and who knew that this would be where the journey would lead them to? How has that shifted how you guys support each other, or inviting you to events that may bring you more awareness around mental health?
It just helps a lot. Like, you just learn a lot. I mean, I've participated in COPE clinics.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so you get to see all of the kids and talk to all of the kids and understand their journey and how important mental health awareness is for all children.
Yes.
I think if I could paint a perfect picture for the future of what I think mental health awareness should look like, I honestly think it should be like reading, math, science, English, and mental health awareness. And it should be a part of a curriculum.
It definitely should be.
Not like a subject matter, but I think you can teach some form of mental health awareness to all ages. So you could start when they're very young.
And provide them that foundation.
Exactly.
That they build on. And each phase that they go through, there's a different book that you opened up around mental health because it's so many different pieces of that and aspects of mental health that as we grow as young people and into young adult life, that you'll need that support through and you'll need that foundational piece through. What are your hopes for the future generation? Like, what do you, I know that you wish that we would have that curriculum outside of that, like just dealing with your children and their journey and understanding and recognizing that there were some things in your childhood you probably should have dealt with. What do you hope for our future generation?
You know, just more understanding of one another, more active listening with one another, less bullying, just being open-minded, understanding that all people are not the same. They don't have to be the same. In fact, they shouldn't be the same. What would the world be if everyone was the same? So just being a little bit more understanding towards each other.
Yeah.
It's a little disappointing to kind of hear young people talk about their friends and how they interact with one another with all of the bullying and just the mean girl, mean boy.
Yeah.
Social media has really taken that to another level. Exactly. So I would like to see the elimination of that. And I think it can start by being more aware of mental health and being more considerate of one another. Yeah.
That's good. So that's for the future generations.
Yes.
It's us parents that need some support. Do you have any advice for helping parents to create a safe space for their children to have that voice?
Yeah, something that I can think of is just unconditionally loving your children. Just loving them unconditionally, regardless of what they're going through, regardless of their mental health state, just unconditionally loving them.
Right. And so with that unconditional love, any other pieces that you would like to add to the parents creating a safe space?
Yeah, just being emotionally vulnerable for your child.
That's good.
And that goes both ways,
That's
mutually.
Good. Yeah.
The child being emotionally vulnerable with the parent and the parent being emotionally vulnerable with the child. I mean, as parents, sometimes we think vulnerability is a weakness. And it's really not a weakness. It constitutes or it helps with growth.
It does.
Yes. So that's another.
It really shows how strong you are as a person, that I can be this parent, but I can also come down and show you that I'm human too.
Exactly.
Like we all are you're not going through this alone. Like this is something that I have struggled with and now I know and see that you're struggling with this. So let's have this conversation and let's have this isn't a lesson I'm trying to teach you. This is something that I went through and I do not want you to go through this the same way. And so that's good. That unconditional love and emotional, I would call it like emotional well-being, like being able to help them have that within themselves so that if any crisis or anything comes along. So this has been good. I've enjoyed our conversation today. Any other tips or anything else that you would like to provide to parents or future generations about how to deal with the generational gap or how to have a better understanding, even though you're not from that generation?
Just don't give up. I would say don't give up. There's a lot of resources and help available. So I would say always seek. If you don't understand or you don't know what to do, to always seek help. There's lots of organizations like Silence the Shame, like NAMI, other organizations that you can tap into. And people are always willing to help. I mean, myself, if someone came to me with questions or concerns, I'm always available. I'm more than willing to help because I know sometimes when you're in the trenches, it can seem like there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Anything you like to tell your two girls?
I love you so much. You make me proud. I'm about to cry.
Oh, no.
But you make me very proud.
That's good.
Yes.
I think our children need to hear that because we're on them so much about grades and about what you're doing and your discipline. And sometimes they just need to hear what I've done right or that I'm doing some things okay right now. Just that kudos to them today. I think that's what we need to know as parents. Like, just say you're doing a good job. That's it. say thank you for being a great child. Say thank you for allowing me this space to be your parent. Because again, they don't have to let us parent. They show us every day they don't have to let us, but they're willing to walk this journey with us. And you're willing to take this time and to step back and say, hey, I recognize that this parenting style is not going to work. And so I want a good relationship with my girls. So I need to find a different way to be able to communicate with them. Was that hard for you to really change your mindset of how to parent?
It was. It was hard.
And is it still a journey for you?
It's still a journey. It's a better journey, though.
Got it.
Yeah, but there were moments in time where it was very difficult. Just figuring out what's the best school for Joy.
Yeah.
When Joy refused to go to the school that her sister went to. And I thought that would be a great opportunity for her because her sister did well and it was a really good school, did not work for Joy.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out a better way. And we did. And now she's doing great. She even wants to study psychology. She wants to be a psychiatrist.
That is, well, look at what we did.
Yes.
The journey has took her to a passion. This is amazing. Thank you, Tondra, for coming. You have been an amazing guest, and I really hope that our listeners receive something from you today that will help them along their journey, the parents, to help them help their child along their journey. So again, thank you so much. And we at Silence of Shame really appreciate your time here today.
Thank you, Life. It was great being here.
Thank you. And so again, I told y'all we don't disappoint on the Silence of Shame podcast. We make sure that we have the hard conversations. And sometimes it's not hard, it's just enlightening. And Tondra was just that today. She was very enlightening on how she took her own journey and now is changing her mindset and now is on the journey with her daughters of becoming betterly mentally health sound within themselves. And so take this message, share this message, like this message, comment under this message. But one thing we want you to do is subscribe to our channel. So again, thank you to all of our listeners. Again, free your feels, take time, save a life, and silence the shame. And don't forget to text silence to 707070. Your donations are always welcome because we want to continue these conversations and having a space for our young people to release their emotions. So come back. We'll see you next time. Bye.